Right, again, thank you for inviting us into your space.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's good to have you guys.
On a rare sunny day this summer.
An amazing day, yeah.
Look, before we get into anything else, let's set the scene.
Okay.
Who are Spoke?
Right, so Spoke, we are an award-winning mental wellness app. We have pioneered a new category of audio wellness content. So we create our own music that's driven by some of the UK's best lyricists, producers, singers, songwriters, rappers, spoken word artists, and they're trained by a team of neuroscientists to bake proven mental health tools into all the music we create. So everything from CBT to mindfulness to positive psychology and a lot more. So firstly, we create content, and secondly, it's all delivered through a deeply personalised app that gets to know you, and we help with everything from heartbreak to sleep to focus to building confidence, the kind of themes that are most relevant to today's generation.
And if you don't mind me asking, why Spoke? Because to me, Spoke is spoken word, not necessarily music. But
it's true. The reason we're called Spoke is because we believe in the power of the spoken word, and it's the way people share wisdom. It's the way we've always shared wisdom, shared stories, important tools, the way they're delivered. And obviously, spoken word leans into lyricism and using poetry. So that's...
And we're here in East London.
Yeah.
Does that reflect itself in the music that's being produced at the moment?
100%, yeah. So we're born and raised in East London. Most of the team are from East London. Actually, the 3 founding team members here that work here today, we are from East London. But the sound is very London in general. So you'll kind of hear London voices. It's kind of, the genre is very reflective of London as well. And that's just because we started here. So most of our, and actually we've got users in over 50 different countries, but the majority of our users are UK based, and they're people who kind of resonate with this sound of London. And obviously as we expand, we will be looking into new artists and new sounds. But yeah, we're very proud of where we come from.
How does that affect the demographics of the users of the service at the moment?
Yeah, well, we purposefully choose the artists we work with, as well as the sounds that we create, the instruments we use, you know, the beat, the type of production, all of it's very centered around, I guess, the sound of London. So even though we've got people who use the app who are based in over 50 different countries, we are predominantly UK based, and actually predominantly London based as well, because I guess people who connect with this sound of London, the kind of music that's popular here, tends to be a younger, much more diverse crowd. And our audience they're very different from, I guess, any other wellness platform that I've experienced. We're 50-50 male-female, for example, which is practically unheard of when most mental wellness apps are over 90% female. And really, we choose our artists very carefully. So people who have that cultural relevance with the audiences that we're trying to connect with. And yeah, I mean, most of the audience we're trying to connect with don't necessarily feel connected to yoga teachers or, you know, the government or schools or, you know, therapists. And these are really important people, but unfortunately just cannot connect to the majority of young people.
We're here to talk about the difficulties of fundraising as a female founder. It was suggested to me that you very much are the face of Spoke in that sense. Do you think that's fair?
I guess so, yeah. I would say that maybe myself and Lemsy are the faces of Spoke, maybe from kind of the more business startup world and then the more music creative world. So yeah, him and I would tend to be the kind of, depending on, you know, who's asking, we would kind of tag team.
And where are you at in that journey in terms of funds raised so far?
Yeah, so we raised our pre-seed a little while ago. So we raised about £1.6 million. So we've raised that so far. And that's with some incredible funds and angels. And we are going to be raising our seed towards the end of this year. So that's Q4 2023.
So in terms of getting in the room in that pre-seed round, How difficult was that, or easy?
Yeah, so this is a good question, because and I guess I've been kind of mulling this question over for a little while, because the truth is I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what I don't know. I have no idea if my experiences have been that much harder or even that much easier than other people. I think in some ways they've probably been harder. I've seen some male peers who are far earlier in traction raise a lot more money a lot quicker. So I can only assume that that they've had it a little bit easier. But then also I've seen other people, find it a lot harder as well. So I think in general, the very early stage, so this kind of pre-seed stage, I would say on average we've probably found it quite easy. And the reason I say that is because we're an impact startup, and we're very heavy on the impact. It's very clear how impactful we are. I actually think potentially with the market and how things are at the moment, and a real shining a light on female founders, it's probably been a benefit to be a female founder at this early stage. But I'm also it feels like there's a bit of a triangle, sort of, if you imagine like at the top, which is like, startups that make it to Series B, C and plus, it's very clear that that's mostly all male founded teams. There is just a lot more kind of activity at that earlier stage. And I do think that, things like being in impact, being a female founder can actually be quite helpful, because I'm not sure we would have raised the impact money we've raised if I wasn't there. Like, it's not about gender either. I think I come with a lot of the passion and the absolute dedication to seeing this impact through. So I don't think that's necessarily about gender. But so that's kind of at this early stage, but I've seen that later stage companies, I don't really know any Series B or C plus female founded teams that are raising at that level. Like I actually even haven't met any. So I do think there's probably a little bit of a pyramid going on.
How connected are you to other female founders across the technology industry who have tried to raise money? How active is that community? Yeah,
I do have a fairly good network of female founders. I'm in probably about, a few WhatsApp groups, depending on funds or stage, or there's a pretty prolific investor who's his name's Scott Mackin. He's invested in nearly every single female-founded company I've come across, and he's just a real advocate for, I guess, getting more money into female-founded companies, and we've all got a WhatsApp group together. So I do feel quite connected. I probably am more connected to a similar-ish stage, and I guess out of most female founders I know, it seems like I've probably been able to raise more money than most, is what it feels like. But this is just at pre-seed stage. Yeah. So I can't say that I'm even that connected to women who have gone further down the line.
What are the concerns of those people in those groups? What do you share with each other that makes you kind of go, right, we're facing a bit of not a struggle necessarily, but it's a big task ahead?
So I guess maybe one thing is actually a friend of mine called Annika. She founded a really cool platform called Peekaboo, and she mentioned not too long ago that really it's quite scary going out into an investment round or going out to seek investment in general is very high stress. It's really scary, and it's actually because it's like this. Okay, so imagine like dating. You're kind of out dating, you're meeting loads of people. Most people doesn't work out with. Maybe quite a few people don't make you feel that good about yourself. You get ghosted a whole load of times. And that whole process
bad dating, by the way, then.
Bad dating, but yeah, but at the same time, like still dating, you're going to meet a lot of people, and it's just sometimes the chemistry is just not there. Yeah. And it's, you can't you're lucky if all you've met is really, really lovely, great people. That's the honest truth. And, you know, you get ghosted a lot. So investors ghost a lot. You know, as a founder, you're kind of out there, you're already feeling a little bit lonely because you're kind of battling, you know, your own battle yourself with your team. And now you're out there as your team's behind you like, yeah, we know you can do it. Go on, bring back the bacon, you know, kind of thing. And you're out there, you know, you're feeling, you know, positive at the beginning, but then you get really emotionally worn down because that is part of the process. And it's almost like you need to get that emotional resilience. You need to be mentally ready to go out there, kind of knowing that you're going almost into battle a little bit in an emotional way, because you get knocked down a lot of times. And I don't know, probably depending on who you are, depending on how much traction you have. So I think, you know, there will be inflection points in your company's journey where if you go out to raise investment, you'll probably get it a lot quicker because it's like, oh, well, we've just proven this, and look at our MRR and etc. And then it's, you know, you're more likely to raise quicker. And then sometimes you just have to raise at a point where you don't have you haven't hit those milestones that you know you will at some point. But that doesn't mean you're going to give up on your business and not raise. You still have to. You're going to face a lot more rejection. And that rejection can be really emotionally debilitating, like horrible, especially when you get quite far in the conversation and you've got, you know, a couple of months of runway and you've got a whole team who are depending on you, and then all of a sudden it falls through. It unfortunately does feel like, from an investor's point of view, it's just like, sorry, not interested, you know, not this time, wish you all the best. But for you, you're like, I've just, you know, it feels like you've just had a dagger, you know, you've just been like kind of, so what I'm trying to say, I think the conversation I had with her was just about being really ready for that kind of painful journey and knowing that you kind of have luck on your side as well. And it is just really, really hard.
So one of the stereotypes that is often told is that it is harder for women to get investment meetings, and the co-founding teams, when they are in the room, they feel that the investors talk to the male co-founder. Is that your experience?
Okay, so one thing I can tell you is that I analysed the investment that came in throughout our pre-seed, and on average, and bearing in mind it's not like we've got that many investors, so this is definitely not statistically significant, but I did notice that meetings that we would both go to together, we were more likely to get the investment through. So I think there was only one exception of somebody that offered us a check when it was just me in the meeting and not the two of us. So that's one thing I can say from personal experience. I think it had been helpful having Michael in the room with me. But one thing I want to caveat that with is I think the gender part is blurred by many other variables. Bearing in mind, he has 20 years of experience building consumer apps. He has skills that I actually don't have, and I think he could be male, female, but he has the technical knowledge. He's got, you know, all this experience building amazing products, you know, all of these awards, that kind of thing. And so I don't know whether, and I can't say, oh, it was because of his gender, because there was other factors as well that helped us seem like a really well-balanced team. Sure. But I did notice that it was helpful. And I guess, you know, I guess my observation is that people clearly do invest in people that they see a kind of like they even see or feel a likeness with. Yeah. And I think that's happening across the spectrum, whether you're a male or a female investor. I think across the spectrum, investment is happening in a way where they feel like, oh, I understand this person, I understand their background, or I see a kind of similarity with them. And the truth is most investors at our stage, which is very early and high risk, you need to have essentially more, pre-seed in general is just high risk. You kind of need to have more money you can afford to lose if you're going to invest in pre-seed startups. There are just more male investors. So really, the really important thing is to get more diversity into positions where they have enough money to take bigger risks and then support earlier stage, because then it kind of will help along the whole cycle.
You said that you've been in meetings, you've analysed meetings where you were on your own versus with Michael.
Yes.
And you have seen a difference in some of the outcome. Let me ask this. Do you feel that the types of questions Michael is asked versus the types of questions you are asked are different? Because there are interesting studies from the Harvard Business Review that suggests men are asked more positive outcome questions versus protectionist questions that go to female founders.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. I definitely think, we're asked slightly different questions. And actually, I can give you an example where we weren't invested in. There was a fund that didn't invest in us, and they said that, because they asked us both lots of questions, but they said it was because I couldn't answer certain questions that were actually in Michael's job role. So they were questions around various parts of our model and how it worked, and quite kind of intricate stuff based on it's his role. That's we work together as a team. We both know what we don't know, and we both lean on each other, and that's what makes us a really good team. Yeah. But they specifically said that because I couldn't answer some of the questions, they were questions that Michael should be answering because it's his specialty. That's why they didn't invest. And that's probably one of the examples where I can tell you I was really, really, really upset by that.
You, when we were preparing for this, mentioned that you are quite scared about the funding rounds coming up.
Yeah. Why? Yeah, I guess I'm scared, and I've spoken with this with a few other female founders as well. I think it's because it's a bit like, you need to be very emotionally resilient. The connection, the kind of mindset and way of thinking of going about it, a bit like, it can be likened to dating, which, it's about being out there, trying to meet the right people, trying to see where there's chemistry. You're going to get knocked down loads and loads of times. You're going to feel rejected loads and loads of times. You might be lucky and just meet the right match in the first 10 meetings. You might not, and you might meet the right match after 100 meetings. You just don't know. You're kind of relying on warm connections. Most investors will and there's a few funds who say, we don't do the warm connection thing. You apply on our website. We look at every single pitch. We will have a meeting. Great. So they're breaking down that privilege. But let's be honest, 99% of getting investment is based on warm connections. And even investors have said, most VCs have said in, public, talks and conferences, get someone to get a warm intro to me, and that will mean that I'm more likely to have a meeting with you, because it means that it comes through a trusted source. That's a privilege. So, people who maybe grew up going to really wealthy boarding schools, who've got parents who've got lots of money, who, are people who are from circles that have generally more privilege, are just able to raise money quicker because they're more connected to people who've got money spare. I think gender is one thing, but I think the area that people don't like to speak about as much in this country is class and privilege. And I think if you're from circles that have a lot of money, you're more able to raise money because you're connected to more people with money. And it's just a lot harder. Somebody who's not from these circles, they need to find someone who can open that door, who can then get their friends to come and invest in you. So I think that is probably with most founders I know that have raised, that's the biggest divide that I've seen.
What advice do you get to counter some of these things? If you are scared and when you get questions and it does hurt, how have you been told to deal with that?
So, and I can tell you from not necessarily what I've been told, but I can tell you personally what I would do. And I think this is why, so there was a study out a while ago that said 40% of all startup founders have some level of psychosis. And I'm surprised it's not 90% because it does take a very strange kind of confidence or resilience to just keep getting up, being able to look at failure in the face and just keep on going. Like I remember when I'd not met Michael and not met anyone, it was in 2019 and it was me and a piece of paper, like I had nothing done yet. And I was going to like massive conferences and there's like 1,000 people there and I was like running up to the organisers saying, oh, please, would you mind if, after you give this intro, could I just jump on the stage and, tell everyone for 2 minutes about this startup I'm building? It's like, I don't know why some of these people said yes. And some of them said no, but some of those things led to people who have now invested and connections that have been completely invaluable. And it was like this sheer kind of unblinkered need to get, it's almost like you don't care, it's like shameless, it's completely shameless. And I think you got to just, with some of this stuff, especially at those really early stages, I think you've just got to have that sort of confidence and approach to just go out there, ask people for things, ask to sit on someone's podcast, ask to stand up and talk in front of people at dinner or at an event, ask for help, who can you ask for whatever it is you need. Yeah. And that's the scary thing that most people just don't do.
2 quick fire questions to finish on.
Okay.
First of all, what do you think needs to change for more female founders to have access to the funds they need?
Okay. So firstly, I think we need to look at this as a systemic problem and really look at all the different components that are going to activate its change. So there's, people, angel investors. How do we get more women to just become wealthy in general? That's actually one of the big things. We're talking 20 years or so, 15, 20 years, because there's just not as many women who are wealthy enough to make these high risk decisions that a lot of men have been able to do for a few hundred years.
Instead of being able to spend someone else's money, spend their own money.
Spend your own money. And I think as soon as it's someone else's money, think about it. If you were entrusted with, £1 million of someone else's money, you are going to guard that. You are really going to be stressed about making the right decision. And I think
not being seen to make the wrong decision or a favoured decision. Exactly,
not being seen to make a favoured decision. So I think that's where the VC thing comes in, and I think we need to look at it through the lens of how do we overcome this as a systemic problem, looking at from a grassroots level. I guess it's kind of activism. How do we train people to overcome that unconscious bias? Yeah. How do we train people to see things in female founders? They're expecting to see something in female founders that they have seen in male founders, but it might be something completely different. It might be that it's just coming across in a slightly different way. Yeah. So people need to understand, all people can go off is their gut instinct, and that's usually based on their wiring from their own personal experience and from what they know. So you almost can't blame people for looking and being like, yeah, I trust this person more because they're more like me. That's human nature. We all do that. Do you know what I mean? So we need people who are making those decisions to really be trained to overcome that bias and see things they might not see through the wrong kind of questions.
Or even consciously be able to empower those women in those positions to go out and to back women consciously and not to worry so much about the way it might be perceived by some others. Okay, and one other question. What are your hopes? You're coming up to this funding round. I know it's not a perfect world, but what do you want to happen?
As in, what would we like?
What would you like? Coming out of beyond just money, how would you hope that it would actually happen?
Yeah, I mean, I guess our hope is that our business can just be seen for what it is, which is an incredible seed stage company that's actually making money, that's on the rise, got an incredibly engaged audience, all these things. I mean, what's interesting is, and actually this was something that's discussed in a couple of the founder groups I'm in, what investors are looking for now at seed stage is what they used to be looking for at Series A. So it's like now, all of a sudden, much earlier stage companies have to prove a lot more, which is weaning out a lot of great startups who just can't make it to that next level. So I guess what we'd like is firstly to be seen for what we are, which is absolutely brilliant. And, we'd like to work with the absolute best people in the world, the best funds, the best partners, to build this consumer. We're not pivoting to B2B just because that's what investors want. We are a very core consumer product and our consumers love us. So we want to work with the best consumer fund in the world.
And gender played no part in your answer at all?
I mean, we've about 15% of our cap table is investors. Is women, and that's better than most companies. So we've done quite well. But it's only 15%, and a lot of who I've actively gone out and found them. And ticket sizes tend to be a lot smaller. So yes, of course, I would love to get more women on the cap table. But
I suppose what I meant was. You'd just like to be seen for the business you are. It doesn't matter if you're a male or a female co-founder. It shouldn't matter. It should just be that the business is something that people invest in.
Literally none of it should matter anywhere. There are good businesses and good concepts and good things happening absolutely everywhere. It's just where, as a society, we shine a light. The same as where our media. Come on, we all know our media is completely false, brainwashing us into various things. It's the same thing. We're shining a light on certain people in certain areas and just not shining a light on a lot of others. So
thank you for your time.
You're welcome.